In this lesson, I just want to introduce you to the basic organizational structure for styling a website. So this is not really a content thing, so if you are a content editor, not a web developer, you can skip this video altogether. But for those who are web developers, you'll find the various files that you need to access in your site through SitePilot, and I'm just going to show you where they live. So we're going to go into the themes portal, and then we're going to talk about the files, right? So the files we expose for the responsive theme, or really any of our themes, are all of these here, right? And for the most part, you need to focus on two. So the first one is this settings file. So this is a Foundation 5 settings file, and it literally is a complete list of all the variables, right, that are available through Foundation 5 for configuring your site. Now, you want to start here before you do anything else, and you want to research Foundation 5, make sure you understand how things work, and then you want to use this file to adjust or set variables, right? So like in this case, I added a new variable called NT group red, and then maybe I want to go down and set my top bar, right, to that color. So, and one thing to point out, we'll go through all the various features that are on the site, but like the top bar is actually made up of two pieces. It's made up of a top bar and also a tab bar, T-A-B-B-A-R, right? And so you need to set the color in two places if you want your site to change. So for instance, I'm going to go back and use this one feature here. Let's find NT group red. Let's go to the top there. And I'm going to actually turn this color back on. All right. So I'm using an SCSS configuration file to change a variable. I'm applying the change here. And then what happens is behind the scenes, Itrium is monitoring this file. And when you purge the cache, it's going to update the style sheet and regenerate the entire CSS file that is used on your site. So I can come back here now and I can review my site, and my bar is going to turn red. Okay, so that's the first part. Now in this file, you're not going to add CSS. We don't want to do that for lots of reasons, but one, we want this file to stay as pure as possible with just your various variable changes for Foundation 5 responsive design there. Now there's going to be times when you're going to need to add other CSS into the mix, and so here you want to use the public CSS file. So these names all have $signs and things in them, and they're a little bit confusing, but every site has a palette and every site has a theme, and the palette is part of a theme. And so when you create your site, like I'm looking at my site, I'm on the NT group. When I'm looking at the site that I'm on, my theme is called the NT group and my palette's called the NT group. I could have a different palette if I wanted to. So when I'm looking at my file references, we're going to replace the word palette with the name of the palette. So I'm going to actually have a file called the ntgroup.css. And it's here where you can code your additional CSS. So I can come in here and say all my paragraph tags are going to be, we'll say color green. Now, why you would do this, I don't know, but this is typically going to be used for more just custom CSS that's outside of the standard things you would do with the responsive framework. Again, you want to work with an SCSS so that you can make changes that ripple throughout the entire site, and your site will then work well on mobile and desktop and laptop and everything else in between. But in this case, I can do the same thing. I can apply my change, and you don't really need to purge the cache here because this is not a compiled style sheet. This is just a live style sheet that's going to be used in the back end. But if you always just want to purge for good measure, you can do that. And then I can go back and I can refresh my page. And then if I have any paragraphs on my site, they're going to be green, right? Now, just to show you what's in the page here, finally, is that the first part is a system-generated style sheet. So when you see a file called sys-something, that means Itrium generated this style sheet off of various style sheet features that are required for your site. So in this case, we use the SCSS configuration change that I made that got recompiled into a new Foundation base style sheet, and we created this thing, and you can see all the files that are included. So I can go through here and find include, and I can see I'm using normalized CSS, and then app CSS. And this is the app CSS. This is the default Foundation 5 CSS configuration when you're overriding a site. And I've got an override for the entity group. And then I've got whatever else I might have in here. So we've got some other iterm files that go with it. And then last but not least, if I come back here and I view my source one more time, you're going to see a second style sheet. So here's the system generated one, and then this one is just a style sheet. This is that public CSS that we changed it in. So I open it up and I can see that here's my CSS that went there. So once again, if you're going to be adjusting styles on your site, start with the SCS settings first, and then the palette settings. Now the rest of these are all configuration files that you'll learn about as we get further into Trim, but this is enough to get you going for the basic styling of your site. All right? Not so simple, but easy enough. Now let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.